Adam Sos here for Rebel News. For decades, Calgary has been discussing, planning, scrapping, reassessing, and doing just about everything except building a fabled Green Line light rail transit system that would connect the deep southeast of the city directly into the downtown core here. Well, the Green Line was finally green-lit, except many believe these plans should have instead been derailed altogether. And that is because the Green Line is costing much more than expected, to the tune of $6.24 billion. And it isn't actually going to be reaching the deep southeast at all. The track has been substantially shortened, and it will also have fewer stations along its route. And at $6.24 billion, this cost is only for phase one of the project, implying that there will be some undetermined future costs for a presumed phase two that will see the track extended to somewhere that is actually needed in the deep southeast. Less track, less access, more money. The issues speak for themselves. Despite this, Calgary Mayor Jyoti Gondek and her brilliant colleagues at City Hall, fresh off voting in blanket rezoning for the city after being told by the majority of the city not to, has voted in favor of this costly project. Perennial voice of reason and Calgary City Councillor McLean, who voted against this project, for those who are keeping track, join me to break down the Green Line debacle in the city of Calgary.
So, to start off with, everybody loved the idea of a Green Line. If we could go from the deep south, get people downtown, and then go over the river up to 16th for $4 or $5 billion, let's do it. I always had concerns, though. Yeah. So right off the bat, when I got elected, I met with, some of the senior smart people in Calgary, geologists, industry leaders, and they had warned me. They said the downtown core part is going to have issues. We're going to have tunneling, and it's going to be very expensive. So even at the beginning, I've been asking questions, saying, can we do this for this time limit, this distance, this scope, and this budget? Right. So every month, every year goes by, and we're told things are on track, on budget, until just recently. Yeah. They waited till the last day of the month, just before summer break, right, to release the numbers. And most of the things that I had learned that they had released to council was just in the last month or two. And we can't say anything behind closed doors. So I was pretty shocked myself. I said, we knew it was going to get shortened. We knew it was going to go over budget. But now we have a stub of a line that goes from downtown to Linden. It's a stub of a line, I like to call it. There's no ridership. It's a train to nowhere. Yeah. And we're going $1 billion of over budget with taxpayers' dollars.
If the intention is to reach the suburbs and maybe get some traffic off the roads, though people in Calgary very often choose to drive anyways, but if it's only going a little ways out and it isn't going to those areas, isn't it completely undermining the purpose?
100%. I've argued myself till I was blue in the face and said what we have to do is start in the deep south where all the people are. We've got that big $1 billion hospital and lots of development. Let's start there and get downtown. That should be the very first, within budget. Even if we had to do a bus rapid transit, a BRT, does the same, accomplishes the same thing, and it gets people downtown. It's less expensive, and normally this is what you do in cities. You run buses, and then you run BRTs, and then you do light rail as you get your ridership up. Right. And again, that's where that's what makes sense. But for some reason, there's some reasons I can't say, or my own theories, they were going to start downtown. They called it doing open heart surgery first, the hardest part. They had to do that first. Again, I thought it was foolish, and it's not going to get the ridership, but here we are.
Why wouldn't they just do, it seems like adding steps, very, very expensive steps, to have BRT going to a train station for a couple stops that's going downtown. Why didn't they just make that connection directly to downtown with BRT?
Well, the answers I kept getting was that we had to get this downtown station. We had to get to Eau Claire. We wanted everybody to get downtown. That was kind of the core. They wanted to start there, so the boring machine would start there and work its way towards the south and do the tunneling first. Again, I would have rather have done the BRT. And again, like you said, it has its own designated lane. We have them all over the city that go from different spots. They have very few stops. They're very fast. I was told that the buses would not be able to keep up with their ridership.
Is this sort of a vanity project, us pretending we're like a major, maybe Democrat-oriented city?
There's a lot of that with rail. Because Europe, like you said, in other big cities, even the States, or even in Vancouver, there's so many cities that are joined together, then rail makes a lot of sense. But we're an island here of Calgary, and so it's these big mega projects. Again, we had money from the feds and the province, which was good. Yeah. And so there's that component. We've got to spend this money that we've got. It's still taxpayers' dollars, but there's an old saying for these mega projects is you make the scope real huge and underestimate the price, then you start the project and you start spending money rapidly right away, then it goes over budget, and then it's too late to quit. So that's where we're at.
Why is there a sense of pride in spending the most money ever?
Again, there's a lot of, the people that are idealistic, that rapid transit is going to save the planet and its cars are getting off the road. There's that ideology. When you know what, like you said, if people still like their cars, they're not going anywhere. I would much rather see, Adam, if we're going to spend billions of dollars, instead of putting it into this vanity project, like you say, a train from nowhere, we could build a lot of parks. We could fix our roads. We can build our new communities, fire stations, police stations. And so now that we've committed all of our money, we've emptied our bank, all of our reserves, plus borrowing, that's going to curtail any new spending for years. Yeah. So we're going to have to stop project. I have a field house in my ward that's getting ready to build. It's the planning. Huge growth out in the suburbs, and they need this field house, and it's a library, and they're going to take that off the books. So we're going to lose a lot of really good things for one big bad thing.
Well, and you look at the numbers, like ranging from 32,000 on the BRT to 55,000 potential daily riders. You could buy every one of those people for $6.32 billion, a couple Teslas if we want to stay green, though they're powered by coal. But the expenditure, like the funds are astronomical numbers, and that's concerning. But I think things might get worse. It kind of feels like a bad Marvel sequel where you're being forced to see the second movie. They're calling this phase 1. It's costing more than the entire project would have cost originally. But what is phase 2, which I'm assuming is going to come to finish this eventually? Is that sort of a hidden cost? Are they trying to get this done so then they can really push federal, provincial partners? Well, we have to do phase 2 now.
Yeah, that's the goal, and that's the messaging. We have to get this done first, and by the time we get that started, we will have more money. Like magically, the province and the feds are going to come down, and then we will build it out after that. But going back to you're getting everybody a Tesla, and I mentioned this, not so much that, because you could Uber everybody around with $6 billion real quick. But by the time this gets built, say 10, 15 years, we're already seeing automated robot cars in different cities being piloted where those cars come up and they pick you. I don't care if they're electric or hydrogen or whatever, but that's kind of the way of the future. Transit's going to be a lot different. I was told we're going to have flying cars by now, so maybe we will. But this may be an outdated thing. By the time it gets built, we just have to go on our phones, dap, and boom, there's a car there in 5 minutes. It takes me there quicker, cheaper, and it goes from place to place to place. So, yeah, I'm not happy. By the time we get a new mayor and council, which I think is likely if you listen to the polls and the satisfaction ratings of people, that's a year away. And, yeah, by then it's probably too late. You can maybe turn it around, but, yeah, that's I don't see anything changing until then.
Well, thanks again so much for your time. I really do appreciate it. And for everyone at home, I want to thank you all so much for tuning in. For Rebel News, I'm Adam Sos. Mayor Jyoti Gondek has failed as mayor, and if polls are to believe, the vast majority of Calgarians agree. So please sign your petition at firegondek.com and encourage a friend to do the same while you are at it. We'd love to deliver the signed petition to Gondek prior to her losing the next election if possible.